A Nebraska congressman is facing questions tonight after President Trump refused to sign a housing bill he helped pass. Nebraska Congressman Mike Flood is hosting a town hall in Bellevue, getting started right as we speak. Let's go live to Andrew Pfeiffer, who is there at Bellevue West. Andrew?
Yeah, well, Brian, in moments, the public will have a chance to take their concerns directly to Congressman Flood himself. And tonight, there's certainly a lot to talk about. Now, behind me, people are still getting checked in. This event is just getting kicked off. But soon we'll hear from the congressman about the latest of what's been going on in D.C. Now, Flood helped pass a bipartisan housing affordability bill in Congress, one designed to lower housing costs and block large investors from buying up single-family homes. Now, according to CNN, President Trump called the bill, quote, a yawn, and canceled the signing ceremony last week. Flood first touted that bill at his Norfolk town hall back in May, where roughly 200 constituents showed up. Tonight, he's back in the metro, and voters will have their chance to weigh in. Regardless, the bill will become law later in the week, whether President Trump decides to sign it or not. Now, things are just getting started. We'll have full coverage of questions and answers, and we'll have more for tonight at 10 o'clock. But reporting live out in Bellevue West, Andrew Pfeiffer, First Alert 6.
All right, Andrew, thanks. Let us know if something does develop and we need to jump back in.